Okay, welcome today to how to cut a cigar, really for beginners really. So the first example, the cigar we've got in front of us today, just for an example of how to cut them, is a Saint Cristobal El Principe. Great light to medium body Cuban. An unusual choice really, not the standard choice, but does mean you can get them for slightly cheaper than your standard Cuban, the premium Cubans you can get, and so it's good. It's a good smoke. It's good for a beginner if you're looking for your first Cuban. Can't go wrong. Slightly box pressed really, and a slight nick on it then at the end, but we continue. That'll only be burnt in the end. So first off the bat really is what part are you cutting? So that end you burn quite simply. The cap end, which is this thing at the end, how they taper it off, is the cap. You only want to be taking off that bit. So as it comes up, you see it from the cap. As it goes up towards the top, you only want to be taking that little end off. So you take off such a minimal amount, and I always say to it, someone who wants to know, the less you take off the better really. You can always cut again. So that's what I would suggest. You're not taking off a huge amount, you're taking off this little tiny bit at the end, just a little fraction off the end. So just what are your options for cutting? And one of the first options, and one I would definitely recommend, currently a sale item we are selling on ridcigar.com. A nice little guillotine cigar cutter. I mean, this is a quite a premium one, a very modern one as well. But all you would do is do this, if I can show this correctly, as best as possible, without my hands totally in it. So if we look at this end, you're only probably taking off that much. So little of the cigar you're taking off. You're taking off the cap. It's probably millimeters. Absolute minimal amount you're taking off. Not even a centimeter. You're taking off half a centimeter, probably, maybe slightly more depending on the cigar. But especially for this cigar, the cap is so short. There's normally, you can see that slight line at the top of the cigar. You see the lines going downwards, horizontal to what's on the screen. That's the cap. That's the only little bit you've been taking off. So, to tell, beginners always think, oh, you've got to take off a lot more, but you don't. A double like this will give you perfect cuts, because you're using both ends. Make sure they're sharpened. Cut like this, and it will cut perfectly. A double guillotine would be one that I would always suggest. For a beginner who hasn't got the massive amount of money to spend and things, perfect. Always work. It's good to keep in your pocket. It's not that big compared to a cigar. Shorter than the cigar today, so a great option. For also when you're out and about, easily accessible. Another one you have the same, except from a double guillotine where it's got two blades. It's got one. Problem with that, you can actually, if you don't have a really sharp blade, and they need to be kept sharp as anything with a single guillotine, is that you can actually, rather than fully cut the end, which straight like a knife, you actually tear it, rip it, and it can mean a problem when smoking and make it a less enjoyable experience. I'll put an example of that on screen now. Another example you've got is a scissors, really. They're actual cigar scissors. I'll put some examples up on screen, but cigar scissors, same thing. They've got two blades. It needs to be kept really quite sharp, and you're using your lever action like a pair of scissors to cut just that end off. So that's another option. Issues. You can get some if you're not using enough pressure. Double guillotine is quite a lot better for that, really. The modern double guillotines are much better for quality control of yourself, really. If you one day you don't cut it right, it can easily tear. Less likely than a single guillotine, but it still can happen if they're not very sharp. I mean, if you're not sharpening, even a double guillotine, you can rip, but it's less likely just because you've got that full locking, like especially on this cigar cutter, you've got a full locking force and it locks, so you can't really tear it as easily, whereas scissors you can. Single guillotine you very much can. Another example, you can get, some very good nowadays cigar cutters that are, some single guillotine, and that's why I won't put you off single guillotines at all. Single guillotines, okay, there's some problems, I'd say, there that have been advanced with a double guillotine, and I'd probably prefer a double guillotine, modern one anyway. But you do have some very good ones, desktop cigar cutters like we sell on Rid Cigars, can be very good, but also, like any other, need to be sharpened and make sure they're sharp before use, just because you don't want to be tearing them if you're spending a bit of money on a cigar. You don't want to be destroying it before you can smoke it. But you can get some very good ones. I'll put one up on screen now. You're spending £120, just over £100 really on it, but will give you a perfect cut every time. It even has a cap stop kind of device in it. How it works is it will stop at the cap, and it will only allow you to cut a certain amount of a cigar, and so you'll always get a perfect cut. So if you want something faultless, and you don't need to think about it, you don't need to think, oh, am I cutting enough, am I cutting too little? It has a stop, so you only cut off enough. So that is a good idea, if you're really concerned you're spending quite a bit on cigars. £100 cigar cutter, if you want to make sure you've got quite a few cigars you smoke regularly, or you're spending quite a bit on cigars, you want to make sure you're not destroying them, so it can be a good investment in the future. I'd always say, though, a standard pocket double guillotine, great for outdoors, you can take it with you. Getting a modern one like on Rid Cigars, we've got a few. The vintage ones can also be great. A vintage, I'd probably always go for a double guillotine. And make sure they're sharpened fully. Nowadays we've got stainless steel, fully stainless, but on Rid Cigars we have some silver, which aren't going to deteriorate, but you need to make sure it's sharp and stuff like that. But you can get a very nice vintage silver cigar cutter, which looks amazing. If you look on our website, some incredible options there for a cigar cutter. But you are looking, if you probably get a very cheap cigar cutter, double guillotine for a couple pounds. I'd probably at least go up to probably £6-7 for a stainless steel one, at least. If you're enjoying cigars at £6 or £7, they'll cut fine, and you can easily sharpen them. We have one on Rid Cigars now, £6 or £7. It will do the job. When you start looking at that, you're spending a bit more money on cigars in the future, desktop can be a good idea to then have even the ones that I'll put a picture on screen previously, but very good cigar cutters, desktop cigar cutters. If you're smoking a lot at home, have it on your desk or in a place on a surface, and it will do the job. And it's easier to clean, I'd say, because most desktop cigar cutters you can take apart quite quickly and easily. Most of the time it's a solid base, and then the little bits like the guillotine you'd actually remove. So if it does ever need replacing, it shouldn't need as much, depending on the quality. I'd probably say nowadays desktop cigar cutters made now modern ones are stainless steel. That's the steel they use because, in a sense, the word stainless, and it will survive for a long time. It just needs sharpening, but you can quite easily take out the blades, sharpen them, put them back in, and they'll do very well. Even if they are single guillotines like the one we have on Rid Cigar, the force you can use. You can put your whole body weight behind it, make sure the blade's sharp, bang, and it's just really quite effective, and it can even be better than a double guillotine you have in your pocket, because you put so much your body weight on it if needed to really get the perfect cut. But that's it. In the comments, please let me know any other questions, and please visit Rid Cigars for some cigar accessories in the future, and please like and subscribe if you're liking the videos. Please let me know any more questions you have on this topic or future topics you'd like me to discuss. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.